Bill Carroll, a 62 Media, and working my way through all 32 teams, as stated previously, made our way to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Obviously, one of the more intriguing, more interesting teams. They're a team that had a pretty good draft, and I'd say a very good undrafted free agent signing period. They signed 15 undrafted free agents, and a few of them I think are going to end up not only making the team but contributing. Watch out for defensive tackle Israel Antwine, who is athletic and been fairly productive. Kevin Austin is another guy who's really, really athletic, not so productive, but I think he sticks around at least on special teams. And in the interest of full disclosure, behold the green and gold. I did go to Norfolk State, graduated from Norfolk State, and even attempted to be an athlete there. But they really like, from what I'm hearing, what they're getting from Deshaun Dixon from Norfolk State, and I think he makes the team. Whether or not he makes the active roster, maybe a little less likely, but he's going to be on the team. Watch out for Grant Morgan, another one of those tackling machine type linebackers from Arkansas. Jarrett Prince, the really good pass receiving tight end from South Florida, are all guys that I'm looking to, like I said, not just make the team. Sorry, Alabama, AUB, not UCF. He went to AUB. But look out for all of those guys to make an impact, along with obviously the draft class: Travon Walker, Devin Lloyd, Luke Fortner, Chad Muma, who I really like, Snoop Connor, Gregory Jr., who I also really like, and Monteric Brown. So they've added some interesting corners and some other players. So let's make it through their depth chart really quickly and then talk about their cap situation and the future of the team going forward. Because really it's all about the future, obviously, for the Jacksonville Jaguars. They added Zay Jones and Laquan Treadwell as guys who are obviously veteran free agents, and they're both lining up most likely at the X. I see both guys getting pressured as the year goes along by some of the guys that they've brought in, either through the draft or undrafted free agency. The big signing, of course, is Christian Kirk, who's going to man the slot, and you've got Marvin Jones at the Y, with LaVisca Chenault moving around but backing him up. And then I'd also look out for guys like Marvin Hall, no relation, and Jamal Agnew, who's now played on both sides of the ball in special teams, to maybe make an impact in the slot, maybe even sometimes outside. The line is Cam Robinson, Ben Barch, Tyler Shatley, of course, Brandon Scherf being the big addition coming over from Washington, Juwan Taylor, and of course Evan Ingram, who, as some of you have already seen, is been up and down in his early days in camp. But looking through the rest of the line, I really like Walker Little. I think at some point he finds a way to break into that offensive line group. Casey McDermott, Luke Fortner is another guy they got obviously in the draft. I think he finds his way onto the field pretty soon, though he's not listed as a starter yet, but it's early. Wes Martin is going to back up probably both guard positions, and then Will Richardson is going to probably be their swing tackle, and they might carry one or two other guys, maybe Chris Manhertz and maybe Nick Ford are guys that have a shot to make it as those extra offensive linemen if they carry 8. If they carry 7, then obviously it'll be Fortner and Walker Little, and then the guys I just mentioned. Looking at, obviously, quarterback, it's Trevor Lawrence, C.J. Beathard, Jake Luton, and, of course, one of my favorites, Kyle Slaughter, who, frankly, I think is better than the other two. But we'll see. Obviously, camp is young. I think this is a breakout year for Travis Etienne. I think he stays healthy. And I think that in sort of like you'll see sometimes with some teams, James Robinson will still be very productive, even if Etienne stays healthy. And obviously, if Etienne doesn't, as fantasy players know all too well, James Robinson is more than capable of giving you good production. And then he had his Raquel Armstead coming over from Green Bay and Snoop Connor. And then they have a couple guys like Micah Sargent and Nathan Cottrell, who I don't think end up making the team, but they have a chance on specials. The defensive line group is intriguing. I think they've got a couple of guys who are going to, Josh Allen is wildly underrated. I don't know if it's because he has the same name as a top-tier quarterback or what, but he's a much better player than most people can realize. He's their primary pass rusher. And in their base defense, he's that weak outside linebacker that, of course, is classically a pass rusher. They've got Malcolm Brown, who's, a fairly well-traveled defensive tackle, but I like him. And Alonso Fatakasi is their nose, and he's a guy I really like, comes over from the Jets. And they have, of course, we got to watch him here in Chicago. Roy Robertson Harris is another guy I like. Arden Key backs him up. He'll be in the mix, as one of the pass rusher types. And then behind them, guys like Dwayne Smoot, University of Illinois, ILL. Adam Gotts's Devon Hamilton, and I mentioned Key. And then as the sort of more traditional linebacker types, they, of course, had Devin Lloyd. They have Chad Muma, Shaquille Quartermain, who I really like, and I think he finds a way to make an impact. And then on the other outside linebacker, group of pass rushers, you have Travon Walker, who was drafted, and Caleb on Chasen, who a lot of people in draft Twitter were super sold on. I found his production in college a little up and down, and he's been that, of course, at this level as well. And then you've got Tyson Campbell, Chris Kablooks, Greg Jeffrey, Shabari Davis, Benji Franklin, amongst the guys in the corner group. And then they added Shaquille Griffith from Seattle, Xavier Crawford, Monteric Brown was just drafted, and Josh Thompson. And they're probably going to keep, obviously Tyson Campbell, Chris Kablooks, Shaquille Griffin, Xavier Crawford, Monteric Brown, and Gregory Jr. Those 6 I'm sure of. And then it's going to be a battle between the remaining guys like Benji Franklin, Josh Thompson, Shabari Davis, and maybe even Crawford's not guaranteed, but I think he makes it. But those guys are going to battle it out for that last spot probably. And then at nickel you have Darius Williams, who came over from the Rams, Trey Herndon, and Rudy Ford. 2 of those guys probably make it out of that group. And last but not least, specials. They have Logan Cook, Ryan Santos, long snapper, Ross Matisic, also holder Logan Cook, who of course also kicks. And returning, on the return specialist, you have Ryan Santoso, you have Jamal Agnew, who's excellent, and then Andrew Mevis backs both those guys up, and as does Chris Quaybook. If he continues to be on the team, is probably going to also have the opportunity to maybe help out in specials. Now let's talk cap situation. Now that's really what matters a lot to this team. Doug Peterson obviously is going to be there to try to develop their young quarterback, and they have an interesting group, I think, an interesting group of people in their front office, many of whom are, if not new, then people who are fairly new to the organization, or at least in the roles. Now, Tony Khan, wonder how he got that job, is still the chief football strategy officer. I love that term. And they bring back, guys like Justin Van Hagen, who is one of the few that list a principal software architect. How cool is that? But they also have, they're forward looking in a lot of interesting ways, and I see how that works out for them. But Trent Baalke, and I know that I do a whole video just of Trent Baalke, but he's still there. Ethan Waz, the assistant general manager. Director of college scouting is Michael Davis. Tim Walsh is their director of football operation. Ryan Stamper, right? A young, interesting name. Director of player assessment, Marcus Pollard, another younger guy. Director of player engagement and youth football. Dewan Polk, director of player personnel. Trip McCracken's director of roster management. Regis Eller is their pro scouting director. And then Drew Hughes is pro player personnel coordinator. And then they have an interesting group of scouts. Won't name them all. I'll just mention maybe one guy one of them that I think sort of has a what's the word I'm looking for? A name worth mentioning, worth remembering. Watch out for Antonio Robinson. He's one of their NFS scouts, and I think at some point he's headed for a higher position, either with them or with someone else. Okay, now I will turn my full attention to their cap, which, as you might anticipate, they have this you won't anticipate, right? The highest paid player actually is Shaquille Griffith, who has $11.5 million in base salary, pro rata bonus of $4 million, and then has a roster bonus and workout bonus that totals to another $1 million. So his total cap number is $16,441,176. Highest paid player on the team. If they were to cut him, which they obviously won't, $19.5 million against the cap. Then next is Rayshawn Jenkins, who's $13 million against the cap. Wouldn't have guessed that either, right? $7 million in base, $2 million in prorated bonus. Once again, $500,000 in between workout, and another $1 million for roster bonus. $7 million guaranteed, like I said. So $9.911765. So $9,911,765 against the cap. And then Roy Robertson Harris. Once again, how many teams would he be the third highest player on? $6 million, right? $233,300, $2 million and a third dollars. $230 million in prorated bonus, $400,000 each for roster workout, and a $9,000,000, $62,745 against the cap. Then Evan Ingram, of all people, right? Evan Ingram, $5.25 million against the cap, $3 million in prorated bonus, and then a total of $750,000 between the two bonuses for both workout and roster. $8,970,588 against the cap. So they only really have one player who's above the $10 million mark against the cap, and that's Shaquille Griffin, as I mentioned before. And then the next highest two players, I'll mention those next two players, and then Lawrence is after them. But Evan Ingram, like I mentioned, and then Marvin Jones is Evan Ingram's, five. As I said, $5.25 million. Then Marvin Jones is $495,000 with $2,712,000 in prorated bonus, and a total of $550,000 divided between his workout and roster bonus, and he's $8,712,500 against the cap. And then I'll finish with Brandon Scherf, who is base salary is like $1.5 million, $5 million in prorated bonus. What a bargain! $1 million in roster and $500,000 in workout bonus, and then he has $1 million in miscellaneous other bonus. But he's a total of $8,647,059 against the cap. So they really have a fairly inexpensive team as a whole, right? Only a handful of guys are making above $5 million, and one player is above $10 million on the whole roster. They have a fair amount of dead cap, though it's not a huge amount. But Joe Schobert is $9,937,500 against the cap. C.J. Henderson is $6,240,432 against the cap. Miles Jack, right, $4,800,000 against the cap, and then it drops off. Lambeau's $875,000 against the cap. Carlos Hyde's $450,000 against the cap. Quincy Williams is $209,545,000 against the cap. Colin Johnson is $153,576 against the cap, and then Jalen Camp is $123,219 against the cap. Total dead cap of $23,104,464, which is a drop in the bucket. So this is a team that right now currently has $7,603,157 to play with in terms of open cap space. That's going to increase a lot next year. So if they do what I'm anticipating next year, they could theoretically get up in the red, but I think that's unlikely. I think that most likely they're going to move on from some of these players, and then the cap should go up. But the big deal is getting to 2024, when they should have $63 million. This is an estimate, but they should have $63,794,817 against the cap. Why does that matter? Because by 2024, they should be at least contending to be in contention. And that's, I'm assuming, what the goal is. I think that this year is another year where they're going to end up picking in the top 6 or so picks of the next draft. And then hopefully they're picking towards maybe closer to the middle, picking 11th, 12th. And then the next year, right? They want to be able to throw a lot of money, if they want to, at free agents and change the face of that team. Frankly, a lot has happened in Jacksonville, right? I don't want to rehash it all. But this is a team that does have a chance, and I'm very intrigued by what will happen for them this season. I'll be moving on to the next team next.